Episode 55.
55.
The 55th. I'm sure that's magical to somebody. You know what? Earlier this week, it was the 55th year for Star Trek. So there you go. Episode 55 of the Cine, man. It is myself, one of the hosts here, C, and I'm joined as always by the just brimming with knowledge, Douglas Davidson. How are you doing today, sir? Listen to that, folks. That's knowledge just leaking out of orifices.
I'm doing really well. It's the weekend. I'm super happy.
Everybody's working for the weekend.
Yeah. Because I'm doing this on a Friday night, I am not writing Saturday morning. I'm super stoked.
Excellent. We're here for you, sir. We're in your corner.
Super excited.
Anything new? Any new announcements? Anything coming your way? How was? Didn't you just finish up a festival of some kind?
We talked about that on the last one.
Okay.
Where I dropped a couple of films that I recommend. I'm actually getting ready to. At least I'm in the prepping stages for Fantastic Fest.
Which
runs from the 23rd to the 30th, and the movies that they have going on for this film festival are kind of it. I'm not as familiar with Fantastic Fest as I was with Fantasia. We, as a website, we covered Fantasia last year. This year was the first time I did it. But Fantastic Fest has some of the same material. And I'm getting the vibe that it's basically that the two festivals are sort of, one's the Canadian version, one's the American version.
I've heard of both, and I keep getting one confused with the other. And I was wondering if there was any link between the two whatsoever.
I don't think that there's a link in terms of who runs them, but I do think that there's a link in terms of the types of genre productions that go there. For example, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes is at both festivals. Sweetie, You Won't Believe It, both festivals. But this one's going to have Lamb, and I want to see Lamb. Lamb looks up. I want to see Lamb.
Is that A24 or is that Neon?
That is A24.
A24, yes.
And I've already gotten an email from a publicist. Wow. Being like, hey, we're representing these 4 movies. And I went, excellent. I'm interested in this movie. So I'm hoping to be able to provide a review of Lamb during the festival, as well as a couple of other films. I'm definitely covering 5. I'm hoping to cover 8 or more, which would be awesome.
Right on. Lamb is about 29-30 days away from the time of this review, and it is definitely on my radar of trying to get my weaselly, filthy, greasy hands on a copy.
After the glowing review of The Green Knight, I imagine the A24 reps would be delighted to work with you.
Unless they go back and they see my Zola review, and they might not be as delighted. But hey.
Thankfully, I haven't read that review. I just got confirmed today I will be doing a home release of Zola, and I know dick. I know nothing.
I still contend that's the best way to go into that movie, not knowing a damn thing. Hopefully, I think you'll have a better experience than I did. Anything else we got going on here, sir?
Nothing major. I mean, I've got some new movies that I've watched, but beyond that, thankfully, things are all quiet on the Western front.
All quiet on the Western front. I am relaxed out for the month of September. Just got a handful more movies. I go on vacation next week, which is why we're trying to get this bad boy knocked out of the way. And then when I get back, it is almost time for award season. And then it's balls to the walls. So,
man, I mean, we got Venom 2 coming out.
Not even a little bit excited about that. Thanks for ruining my birthday, Venom 2. Venom 2 ruined my birthday.
But you know what'll make it better? The Matrix 4 when that comes out. Holy shit, dude.
This might be the year for sci-fi, man. This is between that and Dune, man. I don't know if my little nerd heart could take it. But just winding down September, kind of taking it easy. And also got a little bit of other stuff bubbling in the background for 1 January next year.
Ooh, this is your next 100 for 100 project?
This is the next 100 project. So that's what most of my movie watching has been lately. So I've only got 1 new movie to talk about. So let me get mine done and out the way, because I've spent so much time going back and watching old stuff for the hundreds. I watched Kate, just came out today at the time of this recording. Netflix joined their latest action thriller, and it is lackluster to say the most about it there.
That's sad.
It is sad, man. It is sad. I was pretty hyped for this project too. Coming off of like Gunpowder Milkshake, which it seems like I dug a little bit more than your average person did. I was like, let's just keep this money train of great female-led action films going, man. Let's just keep it going. We had Atomic Blonde, we had Gunpowder Milkshake. Now we got this. This is easily the weakest of the three of these.
And this is from one of the producers of Atomic Blonde, right?
This is from a producer. I do believe this is what the trailer says, from a producer of Atomic Blonde.
Maybe it's the producer that slept while everyone else was doing the work.
It was the producer got
their name on the project.
Yeah. All they did was contribute the name, and that's better. Let's just call it Kate, guys. But yeah, it's a ripoff of a ripoff, it seems like, of your standard action fare. Very derivative, nothing new, fresh, inventive, exciting that we've seen before. A standard action story, which might not be that big of a deal, because I mean, listen, that's what we had all throughout the 80s and the 90s with these guys, is all kind of that same business too. But in this day and age, it seems like we've kind of stepped up our storytelling through action. But this one just didn't hit that mark. The director, whose name I do not have in front of me because I closed that window out a second ago, you cannot. You can't lay that blame on him. And I think it is almost solely on the weakness of the script of the movie. The director put his stank on it, man. There's a little bit of flair on this. And the cinematography is the strongest suit of this movie. Tokyo, Japan. If you don't know what this movie is about, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is an assassin who was out on a hit at the beginning of the movie.
Her name is George, right?
Her name is George. Yes. No, her name is
Bernadette?
not George. I do believe it's Catherine Keener. No, Kate. There we go.
Kate.
That's right.
I don't know how I didn't pick that up. Sorry.
She's an assassin, reticent to do a hit at the very beginning. She has the no women, no children around rule, but they being a voice that we never hear of, a disembodied voice telling her to take the shot. She takes the shot. Assassins said Japanese random mafia clan member, and then 10 months later, things come around to bite her in the ass, and she is poisoned, which from the trailer. She has about 24 hours to live, about 24 hours to get revenge on the people who poisoned her. Of course, we all failed to acknowledge the fact that she began all of this, but that's neither here nor there. And that's kind of what your whole movie unfolds. Woody Harrelson as her friend / mentor and all of this. And, he's not a whole lot to do in the movie, and also kind of weak in his acting prowess. We've seen Woody Harrelson do much better, much, much better. But this is just a standard by the numbers, by the beat. They tried to overcompensate, like I said, with style over substance, which was not hard because there's almost no substance whatsoever to this movie. But if you get off of work after a stressful day and you just want to sit down on the couch and veg out and put something on while you scroll through your missed messages, you can throw on Kate, and that's going to be about the extent of my enjoyment of it.
By any chance, did you see Jolt?
I did not.
I would actually recommend that. Jolt is, for those of you that don't know, Kate Beckinsale leads that one. Stanley Tucci is also in it. There's some other, Jai Courtney is also in there. But it's running on Amazon Prime Video, so you can watch it if you've got the subscription. But the premise of it is that she, the lead character, played by Kate Beckinsale.
Is her name she?
I can't remember. I watched it a while ago. It might be. It's not. She has a name. It is also not Jolt.
Okay,
but
damn.
She has I don't want to call it a disorder, but she has something going on with her physically where when she gets aggravated, perturbed, anything, think shoot 'em up. Whenever someone does anything rude, he just murders them painfully. That's what she does.
Does she eat carrots in this movie?
She doesn't, that I remember.
Okay, just checking.
But as we get through the beginning, when we see her going through different schools and trying to do therapy and all sorts of stuff, she ends up with this experimental device, which is installed in her brain and her spine and other stuff, where if she feels some murderous thing coming on, she'll hit a button, literally get a jolt of electricity, and it'll disrupt whatever is going on so that she won't do it.
Okay.
But then someone she cares for is murdered, and she tries to investigate the murder. And the two detectives on it, I can't think of their names. I didn't think
Calvin and Hobbes.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Did you see Promising Young Woman?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember the actor's name. She was the friend working at the coffee shop. Laverne Cox.
Yes, Laverne Cox.
Laverne Cox is one of the police officers. She's hilarious and fantastic. And then the other cop, I can't think of his name, but he plays the new husband in the Ant-Man series, married to Judy Greer.
Bobby Cannavale.
Thank you. He's pretty amusing, but Laverne Cox steals every scene she's in. But if you liked Kate, definitely check out Jolt. And if you weren't so hot on Kate, then I would recommend Jolt for a similar female lead action thriller type thing that is more than just style. It's got a little something going on.
And Kate Beckinsale has more than proved herself in the action realm, doing the same movie 14 times over and over again in the Underworld series. But I'm all for it.
And Underworld is getting a 5-film collection coming out sometime this fall.
Oh, great.
Keep moving the dates.
4 drink coasters. Wonderful. What have you seen recently, sir?
Well, I'm going to narrow this down since we spent so much time on Kate and Jolt. I'm going to mention 2 specific things that I watched In the Heights. I wasn't so sure about it when I started it. By the time I finished it, I could see why people enjoyed it.
Right on.
And so it's on home video now. It's probably going to come back to HBO Max in another month or 2. But if you haven't seen it, it's worth checking out. I was not familiar with the musical, so this was brand new for me. But if you're a fan of Hamilton and you haven't seen In the Heights, try to remind yourself that Hamilton came after In the Heights. So any similarity is not because, he's just redoing Hamilton, which was a complaint people had. No, In the Heights came first.
Right on. Right.
But I will say that there was a lovely Easter egg. One for Hamilton fans, Christopher Jackson, who played George Washington, shows up in a minor role. But apparently that actor, Christopher Jackson, was also in the original off-Broadway and Broadway show of In the Heights. So that was kind of nice, too.
Okay.
Blind Beast is a new Arrow video. If you're looking for some Japanese erotic thriller.
Hey, right up my alley.
It starts in some very familiar territory and then just fucking goes.
All right.
Whatever you think is going to happen, just buckle yourself down for that. But 2 films in particular I wanted to mention, as long as we're going in that buckle yourself down. There's a new film that's on, I think, VOD right now and coming to cable VOD soon. It's directed by Harold Trumpetero. Thank you. Written by him as well and co-written by 2 other gentlemen. Stars John Leguizamo, a film called Dark Blood. I saw John Leguizamo attached and I went, okay, I want to check it out. It's a story about a man who goes to prison for a revenge murder. And while he's in prison, waiting for his lawyer to figure stuff out, he has to try and survive a guard who keeps coming after him, the politics of the prison, and just try not to lose himself in the process of being there as the story unfolds. It fucking wrecked me.
Okay.
It's almost documentary in style, the way that Harold captures everything. It's a lot of free camera work. There's actually a moment where in this sort of distant shot, you see a hand come in, grab something and move it out. And either they didn't realize it was in the frame when they were doing the shot, or it's because of where it was and someone is just moving stuff around. It's hard to tell from the shot, but it just sort of, to me, adds that sense of we're actually watching this happen.
Right.
It's a little brutal, and it's some of the most dramatic work I've seen from Leguizamo, if not the best performance he's given in anything to date. It is not a pleasant watch.
Sold.
Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It's not in my top 10 at the moment because of so many other films that I've loved, but I believe at the moment it's in my top 20 out of close to 50 films that I've loved this year. On a happier note, quote unquote, it's no prison movie, But if you haven't seen it, I finally got around to checking out LFG that came out on HBO Max earlier this year. It's a documentary by Andrea Nix and Sean Fine. It covers the lawsuit between the women's U.S. soccer team and the Soccer Federation, seeking equal pay, and the absolute bullshit that they went through. Because this team, as of the time of the filming, this team had won 4 World Cups among other competitions. And they, in total, have earned a little bit more than the men over the same period of time where they calculated everything, except the men have won far less matches overall, which means they have to do far more to get close to earning what the men have to fail to earn. It is aggravating, but it is edited so well and the story is so compelling that the energy from the opening of LFG just carries you all the way through. And for those of you that don't know, LFG is
let's fucking go.
And they do. It's one of the better documentaries I've seen this year.
Right on. Very nice. All right, then we're making some decent time here. Let's keep it on moving. What is our topic for today, sir? So you can get all that out the way.
The topic for today, I thought it would be kind of fun. We had Zack Snyder's Justice League come out on home video. Don't ask me where that came from. I decided to try and do something funny. Just roll with it. Stop staring at me like that. Drink your... He told me he was going to go get some water to drink. He comes back with a beer. I should have known better.
I came back with 2 beers, first of all.
Oh, excuse me.
And it's mostly water, so I'm not wrong. I just added stuff in there.
Water, sir.
Grain, hops, sugar.
But Zack Snyder's Justice League came out on home video on the 7th. And since we were going to be recording this right after, I thought it would be kind of fun to talk director's cuts. And what's interesting,
this wonderful preciousness here.
Oh, you got the trilogy.
I got the trilogy 4K. Yeah.
Right on.
Yes. I also have no time to watch it, but I do have.
Honestly, and I think I've said this on the show before, the biggest reason why I like doing home release reviews is either A, it forces me to rewatch a movie I've wanted to see again, or B, it forces me to go through the bonus features, which sometimes I'll buy something and then just won't have the opportunity to do. And something like Zack Snyder's Justice League, I was stoked when I got the opportunity to request a home release because it meant, I have to find 4 hours to watch this. And the beauty is, if for anybody interested, and I know in Paprika, anything Snyder is contentious, I get it. I'm not a huge fan of his work. I like some stuff, not others. But I liked this. And having the opportunity to sit and go through it, I put up a home release review. The first disc of the 4K is the prologue through part 4, and then it's part 5 through the end on the other disc. So that's how we split it up. It was perfect. Crystal hadn't seen it, so we put in one night and one the next night, and easy peasy. So it's kind of made it an event.
I followed you on the medias there watching.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be fun to go through this and talk about our favorite director's cuts. And to be clear, director's cuts aren't always better. A director's cut also doesn't always involve the director. So in talking about these things, it's important to recognize that there are director's cuts like the Star Wars series, which went through several director's cuts. And it doesn't matter if you like the new versions or if you like the OG versions, there's various shades in there. I'm a big fan of the OG trilogy in its original form, but I'm also a big fan of the despecialized edition where they improved the sound, they improved the color balance, if you will, but didn't include any of the changes, major changes. You've got stuff like Dark City, which has a great director's cut. I prefer the Renegade edition of Highlander 2, which actually explains more of the alien nature of them. It's a Highlander movie. Why do we need to? It's people fighting with swords. I don't need much more than that, but this just gave it a little bit of extra depth. Let's see. Kingdom of Heaven, which I haven't seen, I understand is much better in the extended edition. The Almost Famous bootleg release includes material that they weren't allowed. Cameron Crowe apparently wanted to have a scene where a character listens in full to Stairway to Heaven, but they not only couldn't include the scene, but couldn't get the rights to the song. So in the bootleg edition, there's apparently a text that reads, "Start the song now," so that you can play it at home and then sort of share that experience with them. But you've got Ride with the Devil, which I believe was Ang Lee, Touch of Evil, which you and I had discussed at one point off mic. There's even the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which has its extended editions, which, by the way, if you didn't pick up the 4K set last winter, there is the Middle-earth Ultimate Collection that is coming out, which is the 4K sets that came out last year, plus the Blu-rays this time in the theatrical and extended with some new stuff. We got director's cuts for days, some that are good, some that are not. The Watchmen Ultimate Edition is a far superior version than either the director's cut or the theatrical, because it includes the pirate stuff.
Yeah, I almost said the Curse of the Black Pearl. I almost said the same thing. It's the Tales of the Black Freighter. I do.
There you go. I like how they include the Tales of the Black Freighter and use that going back and forth in and out of the story. I like how all of those things came together. And Little Shop of Horrors, this is the last one. Little Shop of Horrors. Have you seen the director's cut for that? Okay, I'm going to make a note. That's going to be an upcoming challenge, because holy shit, dude. And I'm not going to say anything more than this. If you are listening and haven't seen it and you have HBO Max, Halloween is right around the corner. Fucking put that shit on. It is more like the original Broadway or off-Broadway show than the version that hit theaters that almost everybody knows. Holy shit.
Okay.
Crystal took me to a show that they did at Ovens Auditorium like over a decade ago. It's messed up, but it's a lot of fun. And the director's cut is a lot like it. And it's on HBO Max, so you can check that out. Now, that's why I want to do this. I thought it would be a good time. So when I'm coming to my list, mine is not ranked. It's just, if you ask me for a director's cut that you should check out, these are going to be 3 films that my brain is going to latch onto.
Right on. And what is the first of those 3?
My first 3, just because we talked about it just a second ago. Incidentally, it is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh,
that
right
is
on.
a film, and I'm shocked, by the way. I was shocked when I saw this in March. I have said on this show and in other places that I did not think that we would ever see this film, that there wasn't really even a film. But there is one. And it's not just that it's better than the theatrical Justice League that came out. I would want to see the continuation of this story. I am not interested in rewatching Man of Steel. I am not interested in rewatching the Ultimate Edition of BVS, though I have yet to watch the IMAX version. I'm just curious to check that out. But this one, I would not only rewatch this film, this director's cut demonstrates someone that does understand the material, but not only does understand the material, but has a plan of where to go forward. I would love to see that. Mm-hmm. And particularly under rewatches, I was able to sort of, whether it's my own sense of it or actually seeing what Snyder is doing, the black suit, for example, that Superman puts on, it doesn't make sense in this context. The black suit was something he was buried in and is a regenerative suit. It's about helping his body absorb sunlight faster to heal.
There's a purpose to the suit.
Exactly. But in this version, he walks by the Kryptonian suit. He walks by the Superman suit left by his dad. He comes to this suit and picks it. And the only thing I could think of, and this popped into my head upon this rewatch, that it's sort of a blending of the dark armor of Krypton and the light armor that his father Jor-El left him to be in the previous 2 movies. So this is sort of a blending of that, a sort of a coming together. He is accepting his Kryptonian and human heritage.
Also,
sort of doing that.
I love how the Kryptonian tailors knew Clark's exact height, weight, size, chest, arms, cape length. It all just happened to fit perfectly.
Here's the thing. I get where you're coming from. But in a comic book movie, there's a certain amount of fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we would read a comic book and not have these questions that we do in movies. And so because we wouldn't have that question in a comic book, I'm not going to have the question here. We've established in Man of Steel that we were okay with them knowing the size of his suit. Then fuck it, I don't care. They know the size of the thing here. Having been built upon the rules of the previous two films, I had no problem with the rules in this version. Right. I also fucking loved that Bruce shows up in Iceland and is talking to them. And instead of being out of his depth and confused and saying something mocking to Arthur, he understood every single fucking word they were saying and replied in kind. And to me, sir, that is someone who understands Batman.
Yeah.
Bruce isn't going to walk in any room where he's at a disadvantage. He's going to know what's going on. So it's little things like that. Is it perfect? Fuck no. But the fact that I would be absolutely willing to go, I got 4 hours to kill. I'm going to put on Justice League. Like, that's an option.
That is fiction because you never have 4 hours to kill.
True. But if I did, there was a time when I would relax with my tablet and watch stuff. That doesn't happen these days, but I would do that with Justice League.
Right.
I absolutely would. And one last thing, I saw a fellow critic mention the Barry Allen, Iris West scene and found it to be really creepy. And I get that. He's saving a girl, he's moving her hair out of her face, whatever else. The only reason why I didn't have a problem with that is the fact that we know the history of these two characters. The fact that they're staring at each other as they're crossing paths, she keeps looking at him, whatever else. We get that there's a spark there, but also we as comic book fans know that there's a history. So I had no problem with it. Plus, when he's moving, he's not just moving the hair out of her eyes, he's also moving debris. There was like glass and something else.
Yep.
So I had no problem with that. I could see where it would be creepy, but I'm willing to make a case to defend it. So that's my first one.
All right, then. Not bad, sir. And since you brought it up, I'll just go ahead and jump into mine. The first one is Watchmen. It is there's 3 different versions of this. There's the theatrical, and then the directors, and then the ultimate, right?
And then the ultimate.
Yeah. If we're talking just about director's cuts, I'm cool with talking about just director's cuts because that's what gave us our extended bit of nonsense. Kind of flesh out the story more, and I think gave more depth to some of the characters, and just also allowed Snyder to kind of be smug in his smugness of knowing that he can create a good shot. That all started on 300.
He does love a good slow-mo long shot.
He knows good frames and good imagery, and that, you say whatever you want about Snyder, he knows how to compose a good shot. He's very tight and on pace at all times with his cinematographers and lighting staff. And here we get more of that. And Watchmen, as my favorite comic book, graphic novel, whatever you'd like to call it, of all serialized story of all time, I feel like service was done to this story. I was fine with the theatrical release. Thought the theatrical release was just fine. I was like, man, there's a couple things I might have to add, a little change. We didn't get any Tales of the Black Freighter at all. And then with the director's cut, it comes with a complimentary Tales of the Black Freighter. And it's not until that ultimate cut where they finally blend those two together. But just talking about the director's cut, it's still one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. I love being drawn into that world. You can't fault I always say you can't fault the original for all the spinoffs that came afterwards, right? And Watchmen was one of the first ones to really deconstruct the superheroes. And then we have gotten since a gluttony of those. Look at The Boys, for instance. Yeah. But Watchmen was one of the first to do it. And he doesn't always hit the mark with the themes throughout. I think, but the whole point of Watchmen are superheroes are not to be as trusted and loved as you think they are. And Zack Snyder kind of misses that. He still kind of props them up on this pedestal a little bit because they're inherently cool. And he comes at it from that angle of, yeah, we're deconstructing them, but just the idea of these people who actually don't really have any powers with the exception of one of them come together to be a crime fighting group is fucking cool, regardless of how broken these individuals are. But yeah, it's still a great foray into the superhero world in the director's cut of Watchmen.
Right on.
Right on.
I'm going to.
Now we got a lot of Snyder out of the
way. Welcome to my third one. Talking Dawn of the Dead. No, I haven't seen Dawn of the Dead. I haven't seen Dawn of the Dead.
You never saw Dawn of the Dead?
I have not.
It's zombie. Right.
I'm me with horror. Over the last couple of years, I've started watching more horror, but there's still some stuff that I struggle with. Slashers, I'm a little uncomfortable because those are more how badly can we watch someone get hurt? Like Malignant came out today, the new James Wan film. Mm-hmm. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it for the most part, that it is bonkers and awesome and should be seen. And I spoke to a friend of the podcast, Hunter Heilman, who told me about it. And I mean, I asked him about it on Twitter and he responded and I went, oh, with that description, I will never be seeing it. Thank you. Thank you, which is a shame. But zombie movies, I'm still kind of growing towards. There's some, I was about to say The Night Comes for Us, but
have you seen the Romero's originals at all? The Night of the Living's Day
Night
and
of the
Dawn?
Living Dead, yes. Night of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead.
You haven't seen that? Oh man, you're missing out on what I think is the best of the trilogy is Dawn of the Dead.
I have not seen any of the Dawns.
Oh yeah, get down on that.
I always sleep too late.
You know what, man.
But if things work out, I may be watching the animated Night of the Living Dead with Dule Hill voicing the lone man, the poor bastard, the only good guy in the whole fucking movie.
He gets shot at the very end.
Which just goes more to the point of what Romero was getting at.
Mm-hmm.
But no, zombie movies, I'm watching some, but they're not like my first. Yeah, let's do that. I like more suspense, thriller, even a little bit of a chiller in my horror films. But you'd be shocked at some of the stuff that are on my list at Fantastic Fest. I Nightstream, which is straight up a horror festival.
Was One Cut of the Dead supposed to be a zombie movie?
It is a zombie movie.
That's what they're making as a zombie movie, right?
One Cut of the Dead is a zombie movie.
Okay, right on.
Wait, I forget. You haven't seen this?
Yeah, it was a challenge you gave.
Yeah, that's why I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember. I knew they were making something, but I couldn't remember if it was a zombie movie or not.
Or what was glorious.
Yes, it is glorious. What is your second pick, sir?
My second pick, and apologies for the deviations we keep going on, but it's always fun. I'm actually going to continue the comic book thread. And I don't want to hear much from you because this was your challenge. When I think director's cuts, this is one of those which, if we're going to talk about a film that director's cut, I think, should be a film that gives us the actual vision of what the director wanted to do. And there are instances where director's cut gets thrown on the label, but the director's not involved. And we're going to talk about that with my last choice. But with this one, we're talking the 2003 release Daredevil that in 2004 got a director's cut.
Mm-hmm.
That director's cut added 30 minutes of footage. But it's not just extra footage. It added a subplot, which involves Coolio back in his heyday. But
he was already past his heyday at that point. His heyday was the mid-90s.
But it's got Coolio in there as someone that actually gives us a case to follow in which we can arrest Kingpin. But it also changes the dynamic between Elektra and Matt Murdock.
Mm-hmm.
In the theatrical edition, they are doing something, I forget what, and he hears a noise and he goes to leave and she says, stay with me, and he does. So later on, when her father dies and he says, stay with me, and she doesn't, there's a whole thing. In the director's cut, he doesn't stay. It changes their entire dynamic. And it makes the film in a lot of ways more emotional, gives it a lot more, if you will, soul. Now, how you feel about the movie on a whole. At the time, it was a pretty great Daredevil flick. Now, compared to what the TV show did. And Daryl's looking at me like, don't speak for all of us. I thought it was pretty great, but I didn't read the comic book at the time. So I had a little bit of freedom from that. And I thought Colin Farrell as Bullseye was fucking brilliant. But as a director's cut, it is so good. Whereas I've seen other director's cuts where it's like the Electra director's cut is a waste of space. It's bloat. It turns a fine film into a slog. And there are plenty of other films, even for my own list, stuff I didn't even mention, where like E.T., the director's cut, let's take away the guns and turn them into walkie-talkies. Yeah. Like sometimes directors stop playing with your shit. But with the Daredevil director's cut, even if you don't like the movie, I would argue that you are more likely to like the director's cut. So
there you go. There you go. My second one is a little bit flimsy because it's been quite some time since I've seen it. So
the film itself is flimsy, or your memory is flimsy?
Well, it was filmed on film, so yeah, it's flimsy. Actually, both of these, my number 2, my number 3, I never saw the originals, so all I know are the director's cuts.
Oh, and that's tricky. That's tricky because, like, Dr. Sleep, I never saw
the original.
I've never seen the original.
Yeah,
I jumped straight to the director's cut. I will never go back.
I never will go back. No, mine is Once Upon a Time in America.
Interesting.
Sergio Leone, man. This is like, as much as people say like The Good and the Bad and the Ugly was his opus. He kind of, wraps up a dollar trilogy. It's a nice, that director's cut is almost shit. I might just change it to Good and the Bad. I'm changing the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, as a matter of fact, man. But I will say,
wait. So do you have 4 now? Are you
no,
you Mr. You can only have 3?
I'm changing here.
Okay.
By the way, before I go over to Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I will say that the what they did originally to Once Upon a Time in America, the American distribution was butchered from 230 minutes to 139 minutes. I'm sorry, 250 minutes to 139 minutes. So horribly butchered, and I'm glad my man got to see the whole thing put back together. If you have that 250 minutes of time, it is a great crime story.
Right
on. Once Upon a Time in America for a reason. You don't get much about Jewish mobsters, and you do with this. If you can set aside your of James Woods, go for it. But The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, man, look, to me, it is the best Western to ever be made. And I am not a huge fan of Westerns. As a kid, I always saw like the John Wayne joints growing up on like Saturdays and Sunday mornings, and I'm like, yo, this dude is whack. And that's what I associated with the genre for the longest, was John Wayne equals Westerns, John Wayne equals whack, so Westerns equals whack. Is if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C type deal. And it took quite a time for someone to be like, check out the spaghetti Westerns. And I was hesitant, but I eventually got to Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I was blown away by such a simple concept that is told in such a ridiculous way. If you've never ever watched The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, it's set during the Civil War. Unions, Confederates going at it. We find out that there is something like 100 million or whatever of gold coins buried in a cemetery under a specific plot name. And one of the people in this freeway scenario, a good, a bad, and an ugly, one knows the cemetery, one knows the plot name, but not the cemetery. And the third one's kind of letting them do all the legwork so we can just sweep it all up when it's all said and done. And just the twists and turns that it takes, the shifting of alliances. They're together, they're at each other's throats, then they're together again, they're shooting at each other, they're saving each other. There's a whole section in the middle there, which is kind of where the director's cut comes in at, with a whole Civil War battle where you just kind of stop the entire story, and it just reflects on the absolute uselessness of war. It's just both Confederate and Army trying to take a bridge. Why? Because the other wants it. There's no tactical reason. They're there just to take it because the other one wants it. And unfortunately, it's that bridge that they have to cross, because the cemetery is right on the other side of that bridge. And it's all about how far are you willing to go to trust the person that you're going through this whole adventure with. Will you give up your little scrap of information to work together for progress? And it's almost 3 hours. I think it's just shy of 3 hours of amazing camera work by Leone. He just lets the whole vast, at that point, unsettled America, what's supposed to be unsettled America, unsettled Italy,
Silencio Bruno.
Just kind of take the like, it was cliche to say that like the setting is another character, but in this case that is the case, man, because he this is a romanticizing of the West that is not like overly romanticizing. Like, it's dark, it's bloody, it's brutal, there's betrayal, there's shifty ass characters, and it's just damn good. My favorite Western to date, and I dare say nothing will ever take that number one spot as far as Westerns are concerned for me. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And it is one of my favorite Clint performances. It's one of my favorite Eli Wallach performances. And it's one of my favorite Lee Van Cleef performances.
I don't. First question, side. Have you seen Luca?
Nope. I missed it when the screener hit the inbox. I was like, I got too much shit going on. And I didn't get around to it.
Yeah, I was traveling. It's on Disney Plus. That Silencio Bruno is from the movie. It's Italian. In case you weren't aware. I can't remember. You challenged me to watch The Good, Bad, the Ugly however many episodes ago. And now that you mentioned...
It was early.
It was early enough that I was in the other room. That much I know, because I remember watching it in my office because I couldn't do it downstairs. I honestly can't remember if I've seen the director's cut or not. I'm trying to remember if
I don't know what version you watched, but you weren't super warm on the movie as a whole.
Well, I've never really been warm on Westerns, and I sort of had a similar thing of turn on the TV and it was always the same kind of story. And I knew of The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, but I'd never seen it. And I get why people like it. It's I think a genre that's harder for me to latch onto. And I've noticed that with other films, like even Hell or High Water is a good film, but I struggle to really connect with it.
Oh, I love that movie.
Or News of the World, which
number 4 for me.
And by the way, for those of you interested that didn't see News of the World, I believe that's also now streaming on HBO Max.
Ooh.
So yeah, I thought of you immediately. It's got a great score. It has a cinematography, man. And it is a good looking movie. It's just, there's something about a Western. I need something else in it. Tombstone, I'll watch. Oh, Tombstone is on. I've now lost 2 hours of my day.
Which is weird because that, like, as good as Tombstone is, it still just is kind of a Western to me.
I don't know. Maybe it's the performances. I can't explain it. There's just something about it. But anyway, just because I want to make sure we have time to talk about our movies, I'm going to wrap this with one of your least favorite films. But it is, if I'm talking director's cuts, this is probably the first place that I go to. With a director's cut, and I mentioned before that sometimes the director has no involvement in it. The director's cut of this particular film, this director was not involved in.
Superman the movie.
I believe you're thinking of Superman 2, the Donner cut, but I think also Superman the movie also has a Donner cut as well. But no, I'm actually talking about Ridley Scott and Blade Runner. A film, I said it was a film you're not a big fan of. This is a film that has had multiple editions: an international cut, a television cut, an assembly cut, a director's cut. However, it wasn't until 2007 that we got the final cut. This is the actual director's cut. Ridley Scott was involved with this version, and it gives us everything that he wanted to have in the movie. And it is the definitive version of this film. This is a film that, like Star Wars, has been tweaked and adjusted and retconned and re-edited and whatever over time. But we finally got a version. It was like, that's it, we're done. And the movie you do love, Blade Runner 2049, is a sequel to the final cut. So you don't get Blade Runner 2049 without the final cut at all. And the questions that it raises, the stuff that gets brought up. To me, it is not only a beautiful film, but it's a dark film, one in which we question our own humanity. And in all honesty, the fact that we shouldn't be rooting for Harrison's character at all.
Oh no. He's the boogeyman in this movie.
He's not only the boogeyman, he's also a bit of a misogynist. Not a bit. He is a misogynist, and he's kind of a rapist.
Yep.
It's not love that happens at first. Doesn't matter how you slice it. So there's aspects of it that don't necessarily age well, but there's so much of it that does. And it certainly sets the stage for a movie that I like, but strangely don't love. Whereas this one, I find incredibly provocative and thoughtful, which isn't to say that 2049 isn't. I just prefer this one. So in terms of my go-to, going to recommend, when you say director's cuts, where does my brain go? Strangely enough, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Daredevil, the director's cut, Blade Runner, the final cut.
Right on.
So what is your fourth and fifth one? Because you're inevitably going to start. No, fuck it. This one over here.
My last one, man.
Green Lantern, the extended cut.
Right. It is Apocalypse Now Redux, whatever you want to call it, man. Coppola doing what Coppola does at 202 minutes. Just a 202-minute descent into madness and chicanery is what Apocalypse Now is. And like I said, I've not seen the original Apocalypse Now, so I don't know what is extra, what is added, what's what was put in. I just know that this is an incredibly harrowing story of, again, simple mission, man. Colonel Kurtz is doing some wild shit, and we need to root him up out of there. Send your team to go in there and take him out if necessary, which should be a standard A to B, but there's a lot of shit in between that A to B. There's a whole river floating that you got to get through, and just the seeing what, because cliche phrase now that war is hell, and I think there is no other movie to me that shows the psychological wildness that was happening in Vietnam quite like Apocalypse Now does. I mean, it starts with the Martin Sheen breakdown, and then you just see each one of his people one by one just either fall to bullets like Larry Fishburne, or just this descent into their own bit of madness throughout it, where it's just Martin Sheen and the one other guy that makes it there. And then Dennis Hopper shows up. And you're like, oh, what the fuck's Dennis Hopper doing in this movie? And his
his fucking mind before he goes to Texas.
Yeah, losing his fucking mind before he goes easy riding somewhere. It's man, it's one of my favorite climaxes, just all the intercutting between that, the unfortunate business with the actual chopping of that cow or whatever it was that they had there that's actually real and happening, which I highly disagree with. I don't need to see that on film, nor does anyone else, nor should any animal be sacrificed for human entertainment. But all the stuff revolving Brando and his roly-poly body that they had to shoot around and all that, just as much as I love this making, the circumstances behind it makes the movie even more fascinating as well, knowing that Francis Ford was going through his own hell as they were making this movie, and that makes the movie that much more impressive to me. So my last one, man, Apocalypse Now Redux. And if there's one war movie which a lot of people aren't into, but if you want to get to some end credits and just say holy shit, that's going to be the one that I suggest to you.
I while you were talking, I went and looked it up because I was curious. You mentioned how you haven't seen the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me wonder if I've seen Redux. And I don't think I have. I remember seeing Apocalypse Now in college. I don't remember, though, if it was a film class or if it was a class that was doing an analysis of literature and the movie adaptations.
That's how I came to Blade Runner. Was a class for that.
That's how I got to The Shining. I saw The Shining because we were reading it. I can't remember if I did read it, though, which has more to do with my aversion to Stephen King. Like, I've read Thinner, I've read The Green Mile, I've read the book that has the short stories of Apt Pupil and Shawshank, but something about The Shining just. So
that's that good king, man. You get you into that good king. Me and Fraser will sit you down.
And then apparently will keep me company, as I will never go to sleep again, ever. So just be prepared for that. But I do remember seeing Apocalypse Now. I've got it downstairs, and it's got Redux. Apparently it came out limited release in 01.
01, yeah.
01. Yeah. So I was still in college at the time, but I probably seen Apocalypse Now by then. So I don't think I've seen Redux.
Again, man, 202 minutes. So you really got to carve out some time for that bad boy. But I think,
is it super depressing?
Yes. Oh, yes, well, it perfect. Is.
I got Yom Kippur coming up on the 16th. And I don't work, so I usually put on a movie or something. Last year I did The Seventh Seal. I didn't realize entirely how the story, I knew what it was about.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how the story was playing out. I think we did a show after, and I talked about it and was like, fuck, man, I picked the wrong goddamn day to watch this movie. But yeah, fuck it. I at least know Apocalypse Now is you're going to lose your fucking mind. So why not? Sure.
It is. There's no bright spots really to that movie. No bright spots whatsoever. So if you like dark, grim, and dour, there you go. So that's it for my three, man. Watchmen, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and Apocalypse Now Redux.
It's a good three. It's much more varied than mine. And I've got some director's cuts that I dig. You happen to mention one of them, Watchmen, the director's cut. That's a good one. Although I prefer the Ultimate just because of how it works.
Yeah, they splice it all together. Yeah.
And I thought about including Days of Future Past, the Rogue cut, for at least mentioning it, if only because I like what they do with it and some of the symmetry. But it's a tighter film as the theatrical.
Okay. I saw the theatrical and I was like, no need to watch this movie again.
I would recommend it, at least to check it out to see the differences. Okay. It's kind of neat.
Right on.
Kind of neat. Now, for our challenges, I'd like you to go first because we've already it'll flow with the theme if you don't mind, and if you want me to, I'll go first.
No.
But I challenge you to a director's cut that you have not seen.
Yeah, Daredevil, man. 2003, like you said, not great. This movie. Listen, there's.
Did you reach for the honey and get mustard? Is that what happened?
Oh, Jesus Christ! So this for me, there's three eras of superhero movies, three definable eras, I should say. There was the holy shit, this worked era, which for me is like Blade and X-Men and Spider-Man 1 and 2. Because, I mean, even though we'd had Superman and Batman, there's still kind of an unproven territory. Mm-hmm. So it was like, holy shit, this worked. And then we had we can actually kind of take this seriously and develop it and make it as a good genre storytelling. And for me, that's like starts at about Batman Begins and then Dark Knight, obviously Iron Man, all that. But in between those two eras, there's the let's hit these nerds for a quick buck era is what I call it. And that's Daredevil, that's Elektra, that's Ghost Rider. That's what kind of falls right there in that era. And that's what this is. There's not a whole lot of redeemability to this movie that I liked. It's the best parts of this movie, I think, is the fact that Colin Farrell knows exactly what's going on and he's having a blast. Yep. And Michael Clark Duncan knows what's going on and he's kind of having a blast as well.
Kingpin, he is amazing.
He's amazing. I remember the casting for that, and I was like, "Oh, they nailed it for Kingpin." And then the movie dropped, and everyone's like, "Whatever you do, do not watch this movie." And I've trusted those people to this day until today when I watched this movie. And
I promise you, I'm not trying to punish you with the movies.
I told Leslie about it, and she's like, "Man, Doug really has it out for you sometimes."
I am legitimately like, wait, you haven't seen this? Oh, this is a perfect opportunity.
Sometimes there's reasons I haven't seen these things. This one I've been actively avoiding, but it's an attempt made at a superhero movie. There's a couple of decent action scenes in there. There's a lot of not great action scenes in there as well. We just hadn't cracked the formula, as it were, at the time of the making of this movie. I know Kevin Smith is the person who suggested Ben Affleck for this. And maybe with a different script under different circumstances. In an alternate reality, there might be the right
someone
circumstances.
Had tripped and fallen and maybe won a lottery and maybe done all of these things. And
we
how
get
many
that,
variants do we need?
We get that wonderful Ben Affleck joint. A lot of people are saying Charlie Cox is not going to show up as Daredevil in Spider-Man No Way Home. It's going to be Ben Affleck's Daredevil that shows up, and how disappointed will audiences be when that happens?
Shit, I'd be fine with it.
You know, I just wasn't a whole lot to dig. Oh, this is Valentine's Day. This movie came out. I'm sorry, God. Dates. I'm sorry, all across the world.
I will tell you a story off mic about Valentine's Day that year.
Oh boy,
because I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, you know, no offense, but this just wasn't for me. Kind of came and went, and I was like, yep, that was a movie.
And the interesting thing is, because you hadn't seen it, one, you had the expectations everyone had given you, plus you didn't know, and I mean this sincerely, you didn't know how bad the theatrical was to appreciate the extra 30 minutes. In all seriousness, it's in a weird way, it's like the theatrical Justice League versus the Snyder Justice League, where you'll say, I know it's 2 hours longer, but please let me watch this one.
And you said it's extra 30 minutes in here?
30 minutes.
Man, amazing what 30 minutes can fucking change. Yeah.
And it really is just re-editing and some other things. But you've seen it, so there we go.
You know what? I've seen it. I can add that.
Hopefully you'll enjoy my next challenge better, because it will be a Little Shop of Horrors, the director's cut.
Another movie I've been actively avoiding because I have never had any interest in Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay, that's totally fair.
But I will take this challenge. As you think is something I should see, I will take this challenge.
Well, now I want you to watch the regular one first.
Okay.
Because the songs are the songs are all there, but you know what? Fuck it. Yes, we'll start with this one, and then if you feel like it, you can go back and watch the theatrical.
Fair enough. That works. But I gave you a movie, sir.
You did. Memories of Murder.
Bong Joon-ho.
Which, by the way, because I find it fascinating, Fantastic Fest, has a film coming out with its North American premiere called The Execution. They're marketing it as, how did they put it? In the vein of films like Memories of Murder and Big Bad Wolves. So I saw that, I was like, hey, perfectly timed. I just watched this.
Boom.
So Bong Joon-ho directed this one. This one's from 2003, and Neon put out a restoration last year. I unfortunately, it didn't get put up for anything in any category, so I did not check it out. And I'm still new to Bong's work. I've been meaning to watch The Host, and I just haven't. I even got the disc from Netflix and didn't.
I was in Korea when that was being filmed.
Right on. Did you see The Host?
No.
Oh, that's lame. You were there.
Lame. It is lame. Yeah.
Couldn't go to the river and like peek in?
No, unfortunately not.
It's like saying you were there when they made Oksha and didn't see a giant pig.
I didn't see any giant pigs. Sorry. Fuck. I had something, lost it. Sorry. Keep going.
No problem. For those of you that don't know, the premise of it is that in a small town, did you remember?
Yes, Criterion. It is a Criterion release now, so you can go check that out if you would like. It might be streaming right now on the Criterion channel. If you have that, go for it.
Hulu has a bunch of Neon stuff.
There you go.
In fact, most of what came out last year is available on Hulu. That's how I checked it out. I wanted to make sure, because I still have the disc, because they sent it. I still wanted to check it out, but I figured it would be a higher fidelity, incidentally, streaming it through Hulu. Anyway, for those of you unfamiliar, small town in Korea, a woman is murdered and a police officer is trying to figure out who killed her. His method is a little strange.
That's putting it lightly.
And as he finds suspects, he has a tendency to try and beat confessions into them, not out of them, into them, so that he can close the case and move on. Meanwhile, another police officer from, I believe, Seoul has come to help, and they have very different methods of doing things. his method is a little bit more, I'm going to follow evidence, whereas the other guy's is, I'm going to follow what suits me. So I had a little trouble getting into this film because it felt like it was trying to be a thriller, but the balance between the thriller tone and the almost comedic aspects of it, I felt didn't blend well for me to feel like there was a threat here. Like, I'm supposed to feel by the end of this movie, are we going to catch the killer? The killer is doing some horrible, terrible things, and these police officers can't get their shit together. And because I wouldn't have a problem with the odd couple, if you will, aspect, but they're not really working together in the sense where we get them bouncing off of each other. And it does come to a boil in a really wonderful way. But by that point, we're so far into the movie, there's not much left. So when we get to the end, like, the closest thing I want to compare it to is Seven in those final moments, which are just so rich and painful and horrible.
Yeah.
This has a completely different feel. Now, having said that, I think a rewatch would improve it. In the same way that I feel like, for me, Parasite, watching it a second time would make me feel differently about it, which I thought was a very good film, but there was stuff I didn't get. I feel like watching Memories of a Murder for a second time, I would appreciate it more, because certainly that final shot and knowing what it means in relation to the themes of the film and the character, it's a little like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to be vague on purpose, because even though it's a film from 2003, if you haven't seen it, you should go in it not knowing more than I'm telling you. It was worth seeing.
I had some of the feelings you had of that tonal imbalance. I got a lot of that in the first act, but then when the movie settles in, all that like weird comedic-ish type shit kind of falls away, and that's when I got locked in. Like, there's a couple of goofy here and there, but like they get a lot of that out of the way up front, when I was like, okay, this isn't what I expected it to be, but eventually it settles in, and I was like, yeah, okay, now this is the grimy shit that I'm here for.
Okay, quick spoiler alert. So if you need to pause and like skip ahead a little bit.
Good night, everybody.
The dude that is their first suspect, they come back to him. The whole interaction with him, it's happening in the middle of a bar fight where the guy gets a nail stabbed through his leg by the dude who's like, no, we get it. You were just worked up in the fight. Come down from the pole you've just climbed. No, you're going to kill me. No, we promise we're not. No, you aren't. Like, it's supposed to be serious, but for some reason the delivery, I was like, this is.
Oh yeah, I didn't take that as comedic at all. Like, dude had already been beat on by these guys, so he legit was concerned that if I come down there, you guys might kill me. And I understand.
And I get that. That's what I felt like it should have been. I didn't get any seriousness from it.
That's weird. I totally
very.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Oh. I'm not disagreeing with you. I felt like it was trying to be a thriller, but there'd been so many comedic things that was already teed up for them to try and not necessarily be silly, but to have it be received that
way. Interesting.
Yeah. I would recommend it. Oh,
there you go.
I do not feel like I wasted my evening.
Oh, that's good to hear. You got anything else before we wrap this bad boy up there, sir?
Watch Memories of a Murder streaming on Hulu. Watch LFG streaming on HBO Max. If you feel like getting weird, track down the director's cut of Daredevil. Probably not streaming anywhere.
Good reason. Watchmen streaming right now on HBO Max, I do believe, as well.
Probably. I mean, that's where that was a WB production.
And Zack Snyder's Justice
comic
League
stuff
well.
On HBO Max.
Yeah. All right, I guess that's it for the 55th episode of Cinnamon, man. We'll be back in a couple weeks with some more stuff for you. Apparently, I'll be watching Little Shop of Horrors. We'll figure out.
Try not to sound too excited.
I'm so excited.
Tisha Campbell.
There you go. All my hopes rest on Tisha Campbell for this movie.
Hold on. You loved Martin.
I did. The show? I did.
Yes. The female friend.
Pam?
You remember?
What?
Huh?
That's Pam's played by Martin. What other female friend are you talking about?
No. In the show Martin, hold on.
Yes.
Hold on. Martin, IMDb. TV series, 92 to 97.
Mm-hmm.
Clickety click, clickety click.
Clickety click.
Tisha Campbell.
Yeah.
And if I'm pronouncing this right, Tashina Arnold.
Tashina Arnold. Okay.
Yeah. Two of them play part of the chorus. They are two of the three singers that pop in to do stuff. Right. This movie's got Christopher Guest. It's got Rick Moranis. I mean, Christopher Guest only pops in for a moment. John Candy shows up. You're going to have... I will be shocked if you don't have a good time with it. The fact that it's a musical is the part that I think you particularly will have a problem with, because you're not a fan of musicals, right?
Which is why I've avoided it all this time. I had no love for musicals.
I have no issue with that. I struggle with some films because of musicals, because it's like, fuck it, we could just move on with this. But at least for me, anytime we've had a problem feeding either Connor or Preston, we end up singing Grow For Me.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember driving to work, pick a job, and having Downtown pop up and just wanting to burst into tears because of that feeling. There's some wonderful tunes in there that resonated with me when I was a youngster. Hopefully, as an adult, you will still find some enjoyment.
All right, then. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with more Cinnamon. Until then, you guys take it easy and have a good one.
Later.